You see what happens, right? Y'all see I had to get cut off and come back. Now, what did I say? Because I talk about Mr. Trump. That's why they cut me off. But that's okay. Ain't nothing gonna hold me down. Listen, y'all know, family, if I get cut off, I'm coming back. I'm coming back. But if I get cut off again, that's gonna be a wrap for tonight. So hopefully the internet gods keep us on and we don't get cut off. But the truth has to be told. The truth has to be told. So welcome back, family. Y'all go ahead and do me a favor. I'm gonna need y'all more than ever right now to share the video. Make sure y'all get those likes up. 25 people on should have 25 likes. Let's get those likes up so that YouTube can put me back in the loop. That's how the algorithms work. That's how they work. Put me back in the loop. So somebody says, I sent instructions to the fam. Thank you so much. I appreciate that piece of can. Somebody's asking, is this is live? Yes, this is live. Thank you so much, Nayla. Peace and blessings to you too, Queens. Thank you so much, Gwendolyn. I love everybody. Thank you, Michelle. He said, we're black. We need to pour out libations. Yes, please pull out the libations because you already know the internet devil, the spawn of Satan is alive and well. They're going to shut me down, right? Thank you, Scott. Sean Scott, thank you so much. So I'm hoping you guys are all back here from last video so I don't have to repeat myself about any of this Jada, Will, and August Alsina bullshit. If anyone wants to hear what I said, which was only 2 seconds, you can go ahead to the other video that got cut off and you could watch what I said about the sick, demented people y'all entertained by, the sick, demented devils who keep getting richer and richer and richer and richer off of your foolishness, the sick, demented people who like to play on the poverty of other people, not only the health poverty, the wealth poverty, all that type of poverty they like to play off, and y'all keep falling for the nonsense. Right? That's what I'm talking about. But we're not here to talk about them because I want y'all to know, as y'all get distracted by the bullshit that mass media puts out, that is old news, but y'all think is new news because their shit was going on 4 or 5 years ago. And it just hit the news because that's what they do. They always find some way in our community to bring out stuff, even when it's old stuff, because they know that we get caught up in celebrity lives. They like to use that as the beacon. They like to use that as a way to condition and socially engineer us. And we always fall for the bullshit. Meanwhile, back at 21 Jump Street, Trump is sitting down with the Hispanic population and he's signing executive orders to help them achieve prosperity in this country. That is a problem. That's a problem, right? Somebody said, DJ Queen Champion said, Dr. Shonna, who can we meet with Trump to help our people? Let me tell you something. You wait to just watch the video, DJ Queen. So I don't want y'all to think that people in our community have not met with Trump. Of course they have. It is the dumb shit. Okay, maybe it's not dumb shit. Let me not say, because I'm a little bit frustrated tonight. So maybe it's not dumb shit. It is how can I say it? How can I say it? Because I don't want to say it wrong. The stuff that they meet with him about is not what we need to be on the table. It's not the conversation that needs to be had. You see, people in our community, when they meet with him, I feel personally, they pussyfoot around the topic of reparations, number one. I feel that personally. They pussyfoot around it, number one. And number two, they ask for things that's going to meet their self-interest. It's not going to really help our population as a whole. And I'm going to prove that for y'all tonight. I'm going to prove that for y'all tonight because, I know some people don't like to do the research. I know some people don't like to read the boring shit. I do. And I like to do it so I can tell you guys, so I can make it simple, give you guys all the information y'all need to do your research so you can know what's really happening. So let me go back to this whole prosperity initiative that Trump signed for the Hispanics. While we're distracted looking at Jada and Will and August Alsina, while we're distracted about this, our wealth gap continues to get bigger. We continue to get brutalized and beat down by the police officers. We continue to live in poverty at higher rates. We continue to experience unemployment at higher rates. We continue to have the greatest health disparities, not because we're doing anything different than anybody else, but because the historical traumas that has existed in our communities here in America as it relates to our health and health care, right? We continue to feel the effects of that. We continue to have children have the poorer education with the poorer school systems in the communities. We continue to have people come into our communities to exploit our communities, to take advantage of our money and give nothing back to our communities. We continue to have these things while we sit in front of the TV looking at people like Jada, Will, and August Alsina and other celebrities, Beyonce and Jay-Z and crazy ass Kanye, the other things that we look at that's distracting us ain't got shit to do with what we should be focused on. That's just my opinion. That's my opinion. So when we really think about it, when we look at the Hispanic population as a whole, you think they're getting caught up on what Jennifer Lopez is doing? You think they're getting caught up on Ricky Martinez or whatever his name is? You think they're getting caught up on any of that kind of entertainment? You don't even hear about them in the news. What kind of entertainment they're getting caught up on? No. Meanwhile, while we're getting caught up, they're sitting down with the president and being specific about what they need and want. And the president is signing shit because it's strategic. It's strategic. And you want to know why it's strategic? Because the president knows with 30 million eligible voters, y'all heard me, y'all can fact check me if you would like, 30 million eligible voters in the Hispanic population, the president knows, he knows his next chess move. So while he's vying for those votes so that he can make sure Joe the bigot Biden does not win, he's playing chess, and we all caught up playing checkers because we like entertainment. I know I'm hurting some people's feelings, but you know what? We got to talk about it. We got to talk about it. Political Live said they got the DACA. They got more than a DACA. They got more than a DACA. See, this is why I love this community. I love this community that we're on because we can have these honest conversations and we have the energy to stick in it. You see, people are going to bounce on and off this channel because they see the Jada, Will, and August Alsina, and they get caught up. They get caught up on buzz phrases or clickbait. They get caught up on it and they really don't want to learn. So if you're here and you're watching it, I hope you're here to learn something. Because we always like to have conversations about playing chess, not checkers, but we continue to play checkers. And quite frankly, I'm getting sick and tired of it. I'm getting so sick and tired of us getting caught up on the language. We love buzzwords and catchphrases. But are we really paying attention? Are we really doing the work? Right? Here's what one of the people saying Hamilton is saying, because Hamilton got all these numbers in his or her name. But what Hamilton is saying, while we're distracted, the courts awarded half of Oklahoma to Native Americans this week. Come on, let's talk about it in this community. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about how we keep getting our ass kicked economically. How everybody's getting something handed out to them, and we can't even have an honest conversation about reparations. Let's talk about the distraction, people. Let's talk about all the distractions in our community. Right? Let's talk about it. Right? Like, that's right, Ronald. Ronald said we're not getting shit. We're not getting shit. Let's tell the truth. Let's talk about what's happening. Let's talk about what is behind the Hispanic Prosperity Initiative. What is behind that? Let me give y'all a little blueprint first. Let me show you what happened. See, because I watched that whole press conference. And let me describe it, because I want y'all to know how chess looks. And some of y'all just like the phrase, play chess, not checkers, but don't know what the hell you're talking about. I swear I got to do a chess video. I got to teach y'all how to play chess, because y'all clearly missing the point here. So at the table, let me paint the picture, because y'all know I like story time before I get into the message. I like story time. Let me paint the picture. So as I'm watching this press conference, at the table, of course, is Mr. Trump. And he's sitting there, he's looking at us, right? Thank you very much. Thank you very much. He's thanking the people that's talking. So as I'm listening in on what's being said, he's at a table with a whole bunch of different Hispanic people representing different countries. El Salvador, Mexico, Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, representing different Hispanic countries. And they all start off their speech with thanking Mr. Trump. Thank you so much, President Trump. My family came here, immigrated to this country. They immigrated here and blah, blah, blah. And they didn't have anything. So I thank you so much for what you have been doing for the Latino population. And we wanted you to know that we're here to support you. You can have our votes. Let me let you know what the fuck I need. And then they say what the fuck they need. And Trump says, right. Thank you so much. You're great people, great people, great people. We love to have you. Puerto Rico, yes, great people in Puerto Rico. Dominican Republic, great people in Dominican. And every last one of them representing every last country is kissing this president's ass. The president that talked about the war, the president that said they were drug dealers and criminals coming in from Venezuela and other countries, the president who has talked badly about their population is now all of a sudden praised. Right? Right? Praised. And why do you think that they do such a thing? Praise him. See, it's a chess move. They probably praise him in public and go like, we don't give a fuck about that person. He can get hit by a train tonight. But let me say something. We need to get this policy on the table because this is going to help our community. And if he wants our vote, he has to put something in writing. Tell me that's not a chess move. If he wants the Latino population to give up their vote, he has to give us something in writing, something that is enforceable that we can start banking on today, tonight, and not when you win. Oh shit, y'all missing the point. Thank you so much for that donation. Sid, let's read what Sid is saying. Sid is saying the Latino U.S. citizens are smart enough to force both parties to fight for the vote. We are still accepting this domestic abuse from the Dems and not approaching GOP for anything. Ted Cruz owes black voters in Texas. You are damn right. Go ahead and say that shit, Sid. Say it. I know we need to give some people some political education. I know our community, for the most part, likes to shy away from political conversation. We much rather talk about Jada, Will, and August. We want to talk about what's going on in their marriage, like we have not experienced fucking infidelity in our own marriages. We want to talk about the wife cheating and how fucked up that is for the dude. Like, let me tell you something. I'm a marriage counselor. We have more women cheaters in my practice than we do have males. Period. Hands down. Okay. Stop with the nonsense. We like to get caught up on all that bullshit. Meanwhile, Hispanics is at the conversation. Because Trump knows he has to have a conversation with them. Because Trump knows that he needs the Hispanic votes. And he knows that he no longer needs black voters. He's not worried about us. Oh, you don't believe me? I'm going to prove it tonight. See, the Hispanic population over the last 2 decades has been on a rise. Over the last 20 years, they have been on the rise. And you got to understand, when they first started immigrating into here, that the first generation here in this country, they wasn't banking on their generation getting anything from the government or anything. What I mean is, like, they wasn't worrying about voting at that time, not because it wasn't important, because they weren't eligible. But what did they do? They had babies. They had babies in this country who are born citizens, right? And now that population are adults. Now that population are the voter population, right? And so when you have all these children, come on, we got to talk about it, people. It's not to get anybody in their feelings. It's not to hurt anybody. We're just talking about data and facts. Because that's what I'm about. So when you have all these children, and these children, somebody said, especially the Mexicans, you're damn right. So don't get offended by anybody, because the Mexican population is 60% of the Hispanic population in this country. I'm going to give you all the facts and figures. Y'all can go ahead and look it up yourself. 60%. So she's absolutely right. And we got to understand that as they have their babies, 20 years later, their babies are eligible to vote. So the eligible voting population is 30 million. Are y'all hearing me? Oh shit, y'all not hearing me. Let me break this down even more, because I'm getting comfortable. I should take y'all over there to my bar and have a drink, because y'all missing this. I got to get comfortable in my house, because y'all not hearing me. 30 million eligible Hispanics to vote. 30 million. How many Black people in total, including the immigrated Blacks, we're going to break it down. How many Black people, give me an estimate of how many Black people are in the United States. Give me your estimate. What do you think? I know y'all some critical thinkers in this community. I know y'all should know the numbers. Come on now. Come on now. Right? Let me see those numbers. Come on, y'all, write it up. Give me your estimate. How many Black people in total you think is in this country? There you go. Somebody said 46 million. We are anywhere from 42, and maybe you can count 46 million, but usually we're around the 42 million mark. That's all of us. How many of us are descendants of enslaved Africans in this country? What do you think that number is? What do you think that number is? Somebody said 16 million. No, baby, not 16 million, 42 million. 42 million is 30 million eligible Hispanic voters. Out of the descendants, we have 38 million. Thank you for that, M. Males, and thank you for that, Jen. Thank you for that. 38 million. So you got 30 million eligible Hispanics. You got 38 million of us who are considered African American, ADOS, FBA, descendants of enslaved Africans, whatever language you want to use tonight, I don't care. Whatever language you want to use. 38 million, roughly. And out of all the Black population, non-Hispanic Black, is 42 million. And they got 30 million eligible voters. So Trump is sitting down at the table and he's having a conversation with them because it's a chess move. It's a chess move, family. And what he knows is with that population growing, he in good hands. So he's sitting down at the table represented by all these Hispanics from different Latino countries, and they're putting their stakes on the table, and he's signing an executive order because what they're going to do is go back to their community and they're going to tell their community how to vote. 60 million Mexicans. Build that wall, build that wall. And they're sitting at the table praising him. Thank you for that donation, Sid. Sid said, Trump still needs the Black vote, ma'am. Trump owes us too because we sat down on Hillary. That works, Doc. We haven't went to him, Doc. No, we have went to him, Sid. We have. And he doesn't need all of the Black votes. And that is, he knows he's not going to get all of the Black votes. So he's not even worried about it. This man is not stressing about it. Let me tell you, I'm gonna break it down, Sid, because I know, you and I, you can call me on my personal phone, Sid, you know my number, and we can chop it up. Jamie, thank you for that donation. Jamie said Hispanics would trick their vote. Many of them identify with Eurocentric ideals. Of course they do, Jamie Martinez. Who you married to? Martinez. Of course they will. Let me tell you. Here's what the commission focused on. Part of that report, the commission will foster school of their choice efforts, right? Whatever school they want to go to, and promote public and private partnerships. You know what that means, right? When you promote public-private partnerships. So if you are a business person, which a lot of Hispanics, according to the report we're about to go over, are entrepreneurs. So they're already in business. And they're going to find ways to develop this public-private partnership to get funding to grow their businesses and help their community. Meanwhile, in our community, where the public-private partnerships exist, they're ran by organizations that have a primarily white board. Come on, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Who has primarily a white board. And they pretty much suck the funding out of our community and into their pockets. And our community stays the goddamn same. And when all these other businesses open in our communities, they're opening it by people not in our communities who are profiting off of our communities. But I bet you when the Hispanic people get their public-private partnership is going to benefit their community. See, people can put anything Hispanic or Latino organization and nobody has anything to say. Nobody gets mad. The minute we put something out there for us, everybody got something to say. So we got so many people in our community who pussyfoots around that because they don't want to upset and offend anybody because they want their funding to come through. Meanwhile, Hispanics ain't even worried about that. Right? Thank you for that donation, Raiders 48 Gates. He says, aim right at the heart. Right? Aim right at the heart. Always aim at the heart. Always aim at the heart. But let me tell you something. This is what I have to say to our community. Money talks and everything else whispers. Right? And I'm going to tell you what I mean when I say that. Money talks and everything else whispers. See, if we're not coming to the table specifically asking for things for our community's prosperity. See, when you read reports that's written by them, it says minority communities. Everything that we come to the table for, we use blanket terms like minority community. So everybody gets a piece of the cake that we so-called going to the table for, but us. But us. And that's the problem. Meanwhile, Hispanics go to the table with the president, Donald J. Trump, and they didn't ask for anything for all minorities. They asked for something for Hispanics, period. You got DR at the table. You got Puerto Rico at the table. You got Venezuela at the table. You got Mexico at the table. You got El Salvador at the table. You got Peru at the table. You got all these people at the table from Latino countries asking for stuff specifically for their people. And they're getting it. And they're getting it. And he's sitting at the table and he's praising them because they're praising him. And the only thing that's in this man's head is votes, 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 votes. And the only thing that's in their head is how can we come on top? How can we get closer to the dominant society? AKA white America, for those who don't know who the dominant society is, AKA white America. They're looking at that because they're trying to close their wealth gap. Meanwhile, the only population of people who have a growing wealth gap is our community. That's right, water snipers. Even the Cubanos was at the table, the Cubans. The only people who have a growing wealth gap is our community. That's right, political. Political said we are going to be the permanent underclass of this nation. We're not our labor. We know our labor is needed in the economy. So we are expendable. Man, look. He's not stupid with what he's doing. He's going to help them to develop apprenticeships and work-based learning initiatives. See, somebody's going to say, well, Dr. Shonna, he did the same thing for the African-American community. But I'm going to break it down for y'all a little bit. Just be patient. Get your pen and paper. I'm even going to give you the website that you can go to read it your damn self. If you want to read it. If you want to read the 36-page report, like I read it. I'm not going to report on the whole report tonight. That's going to be another live because y'all really need to see the difference. We're going to start to report on the research on Hispanics right now. So get your pen and paper. Get your pen and paper. I want y'all to know about Congresswoman Carolyn Maloney. All right. Thank you so much for that donation. Can Angels Fly, Tarot, and more. Thank you so much for that donation. I want you to know about Congresswoman Carolyn Maloney. See, because she did a report. She did a report because he asked for that to happen. He asked for the study to happen, to put out there so he can know the numbers on the Hispanic population. You got to understand why they look for these studies, because guess what? There was a study done on us too. Not only was it done on us in 2015 by the same Senate government, but it also was done on us this year in 2020. And both reports are embarrassing, to say the least. Oh, but how the Hispanic report was written. How the Hispanic report was written. They did not report on the social ills that exist in the Hispanic community. We know there's drugs in their communities right here in America. We know there's violence in their communities right here in America. We know that there is domestic violence in their communities right here in America. We know that there are high welfare cases in their communities right here in America. We know that there's poverty in their communities right here in America. You know why? Because when it comes to that, their communities, they're running neck to neck. But the difference is they are entrepreneurs. The difference is they're making their money in the here and now. They may be suffering in retirement. A lot of them end up in greater poverty in retirement. But in the current day, right now, when you have your health and your health is wealth, they're making their money. Oh, we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about it. But did the report report on their social ills? Of course it did not. But in our report, did it point out our social ills? Of course it did. Of course it did. Oh, yes, baby. Yes, baby. Thank you for that donation, Aesthetics Guru. Says Dr. Shonna, you are preaching tonight, and I'm here for. I'm glad you are, because we have to get politically educated. Instead of looking at Jada and them, worrying about what Beyonce and them doing, trying to learn how to twerk like Megan Thee Stallion, watching YouTube, trying to twerk, going on, checking on city girls in jail and shit, following Cardi B and liking all the stuff she's doing and saying. Instead of us getting goddamn entertained, we need to be getting educated on what has happened, because we have the wrong people for the most part representing us when they go to the seat at the White House. And don't be mistaken. Don't be mistaken. People from our so-called community have been in the White House. They have been in the seat, but it's what they're asking for that we should be concerned about. It's what they're asking for that is not to help our community as a whole. And don't get distracted by the glitter and gold. Don't get distracted by the shiny objects. Don't. You know what our community reminds me of sometimes? I'm going to get to these numbers. I know you'd rather hear me talk than the numbers, but I have to get to the numbers because y'all got to know. Y'all got to know the numbers. But let me tell you what our community reminds me of sometimes. And, you know, it's not a jab to our community. I love my community. But we got to point out the bullshit that happens. Y'all remember that movie? And I know, if I remember it, I'm in my 40s. I know y'all remember it too. Come on now. Remember the movie, what's that, Car Wash? Remember the movie Car Wash? With Richard Pryor, I believe he was the one in the movie Car Wash. And he had the glitter and gold. He was a fancy thing. And our community, right? The black people in the community were so drawn to what they perceived to be success. Come on now. They perceived Richard Pryor, I forgot his name, in Car Wash, but they perceived him to be successful. And then he come on out with his pimp daddy walk and run his little game on our community. We were so caught up on him and what he had to say. And we want to listen to him. But then when you had the brothers that were super, ooper, duper hip to the game, and they was trying to teach the community, yo, this dude is running game, stop getting distracted, we got all this shit going on in our community, we got to wake up. They didn't want to listen to that brother. Oh man, brother, you crazy, tired of all this black stuff. But what they wanted to do was listen to him because they thought he was the symbol of wealth. Daddy Grace, that's right, Candace, thank you for that, but that's what it was. And that's what is it Daddy Rich or Daddy Grace? But anyway, it doesn't matter what his name was. But that's what it was. And that's what our community is getting caught up in today. See, they don't make movies for no reason. They turn our pain into humor. And we don't even understand it as a form of conditioning. It's a form of socializing. It's a form of social engineering. And we're so accustomed to being entertained that no wonder old shit with Jada, Will, and Alsina from 4 or 5 years ago can come out today in 2020 and we distracted. Daddy rich. That's right, daddy rich. Daddy rich. Daddy rich. We like daddy rich, right? That's daddy rich. We get distracted by that. Meanwhile, the Hispanic population ain't worried about the daddy rich in their community. They trying to get rich. You get what I'm saying? They not worried about daddy rich in their community. These jokers are trying to get rich themselves, and they're strategizing to make it happen. They sitting down and kissing ass just so they can see that ink hit the paper and let it be dry, because let the will be done when the ink is dry. Shit. We haven't even got the ink on the paper. We get distracted. We turn around. We just got a clear line. Gibberish. Nothing's being said but a clear line because we looking at television. We glue to social media on entertainment. And while we distracted, Trump is saying, well, let's change this word from African Americans to minority populations. We're going to change this word from African Americans to people of color. We're going to change this word from African Americans to all Americans, especially those living in poverty. Come on now. Come on now. Am I telling the truth, or am I telling the goddamn truth? Meanwhile, you got the U.S. Small Business Association, aka the SBA, granting almost $2 billion worth of loans to Latino-owned small businesses. But yet there has been studies, research, documentation, proof that African-American small business owners are usually rejected for these loans. But did you know that this population, they're strategic? Did you know that the Hispanic population is focused? Once upon a time, they were not the majority, minority, so-called, whatever they call minority, because ain't nothing minority about me, but y'all know what I mean. Once upon a time, they were not the majority, minority. We were. But right now, what is our percentage in this country? What is our percentage? See, we got to understand. If they got 30 million eligible voters, the Hispanic population as a whole, and we got 42 million blacks, not eligible voters, just blacks in the country as a whole, and they got 30 million eligible voters. We got 42 million blacks in America, but we're 13% of the population. And guess what their percentage is of the population? What up, Super Seamstress Sewing? Thank you so much for that shout out. What is our population? We're 13%, and theirs is 18%. 18%. So you got to understand why Trump is focusing on them. You got to understand. So you got to understand the numbers to understand the strategy. You got to understand the numbers to understand all the pieces on the chessboard. 18%. That is 60 million. There's 60 million in the U.S. We're 42 million. They are 60 million in the U.S. Do y'all understand what we up against? Do you understand what we are up against? Asian Americans in this country represent 6% of the population. And when it comes to wealth and prosperity, they're kicking ass. 6% of the population kicking ass in this country. And who's at the bottom? Who's at the bottom? So I don't want to hear the people that come on that like to be distracting, right? They like to come on and say, well, they got 60 million people They're 80% of the population. Of course, they're going to be doing better. No. No. That's a bad analogy. No. Asians are 6% and they're doing better than everybody. Asians are 6%. They're half of African Americans and they're doing better than everybody else. They're about six times less than the Hispanic population. And they're doing better than everybody else. Shonna is saying that we got the felons out. They would be a great help, especially since most are in false charges or aggrandized. What she said? Okay, I get what you're saying. Charges. Let me tell you something, Shonna. Let me say this. Trump already signed that act. Trump already signed that act and has changed the game in the area of incarceration. Obviously, he did it for everybody, not just our population. He did it for everybody, right? That's obvious. That's expected. I mean, we want it just for our population. I get it, but that's what is expected, right? He did it for everybody. There's been partnerships that has been joined with companies around the world, including big companies like FedEx, right? Partnerships to take in ex-felons. But that's not going to change our wealth gap. That's not going to change it. That's also going to help create an underclass population of people. Poverty is structured, just like unemployment is structured. Happens intentionally to keep the balance. Thank you for that donation, Sid. Sid is saying 40% of Latino U.S. citizens voted for Hillary. 100% of Black voters can vote for Biden. And mark my words, conditions will worsen us within 100 days. Oh, yeah. Conditions are already worsening. Right? So let's get back to it. Here you are in the Hispanic population. According to them, the report by Congresswoman Carolyn Maloney, the report says that Hispanics are 1.7% more likely to live in poverty when they're compared to whites. But guess what we are? See, this initiative is signed by Trump to help Hispanics gain prosperity. Meanwhile, we are three times, not 3%, 3 times more likely to live in poverty when compared to whites. 3 times more likely to live in poverty when compared to whites. They're 1.7 and we are 3 times. That's problematic. But we're concerned about entertainers. We're concerned about the daddy rich in the community. We got a new member to the community. Thank you so much for that new membership. Missed your name, but when I see your name in green, I'll shout you out. 3 times more likely. You know how we always say, well, you know, we should go to the table because we got such and such $1 trillion in spending power. We love to throw that around. But what do we do with it? We always throw this around, but are we sitting at the table saying you got to sign a prosperity executive order just for us, not for all minorities, not for all poor people, not for all people of color, but for us, because this is our spending power. But meanwhile, in this report written by Congresswoman Carolyn Maloney, she points out that Hispanics have $2.3 trillion in economic activity. We've been power for how long? This ain't a new conversation. We always talk about our trillions of dollars in spending power. But see, it becomes something different when you write a report to promote the justification behind signing the executive order to help them. Meanwhile, when you read the report written on our community by Congressman, what's his name? Something Bayer. I think Don Bayer, right? Something like that. Don Byers or Bayers, Beyers. The Don Bayer report in 2020, he wrote, nothing but our social ills, nothing about our single mother households, nothing but the amount of men that's incarcerated in our communities, nothing but the amount of children in poverty in our communities, nothing but the amount of children not graduating schools in our community, nothing but that is all in our report. So our report is written like, oh, give them some welfare, keep them poor, give them another handout, keep them begging. We need structural unemployment. We need structural poverty. We need structural oppression for many reasons. Keep them in that category. Oh, woe is them. But the Hispanic report is like, invest in them. They're a fast-growing population. Invest in them. There are communities of entrepreneurs. Invest in them. Their wealth improved from 2000 blah, blah, blah to 2019. They're doing great. Invest in them. I said 60 million Mexicans. I'm sorry, the stats is 62 million Mexicans in this country. 9%, 62%, not 62 million, I'm sorry, 62% Mexicans in this country, 9% Puerto Ricans in this country, 4% Dominicans, Cubans, and Salvadorians in this country. And 45 million in this country are foreign born. 45% of them are Latino. So half of the foreign born people, just about half, are the Hispanic population. Of course he's going to sit down and do deals with them. Of course he is. Let's talk about unemployment. In 2009, the Hispanic population had a 13% unemployment rate. In 2019, the unemployment rate was 4.2%. Y'all guys better go look up ours. Y'all better go look up ours. Do you know how hard it is for a brother in our community to get a job in construction? Do you know how hard it is for a brother or sister in our community to get a job in construction? Meanwhile, 31% of Hispanics are represented in construction. Meanwhile, when it comes to farming, Black farmers suffer. We don't even have that many Black farmers or Black people in agriculture. We suffer. Meanwhile, 26% of the Hispanic population is in agriculture. When it comes to leisure and hospitality, that industry, 23% represent that industry. In the mining industry, 21% represents that industry. In the wholesale trade industry, 19% represent that industry. In the transportation and utilities, 18%. These are some high numbers. Whereas, thank you for that donation, Raiders. He said, call it like it is, sis. I'm trying to. I hope people are listening. I hope they're listening. Meanwhile, when it comes to our community, according to the report commissioned by the White House, signed, sealed, and delivered by Congresswoman Carolyn Maloney, it's clear that Blacks, listen to this family, Blacks have less upward mobility in comparison to Hispanics, Asians, and whites, less upward mobility, but who you think has the highest downward mobility? We do. We do. It is not because we're not educated. It's not because we're not out there trying. You got to understand this. Money talks and everything else whispers. You got to understand it. See, because the Hispanic population has a high percentage of entrepreneurs in their population. You can go into any Hispanic community. If you go into their communities, they own their clothing stores, they own their supermarkets, they own their furniture stores, they own their laundromats, they own their restaurants, they own their daycare centers. Am I lying? Am I lying? And meanwhile, too many of us want to see what Jada, Will, and Alsina is doing. Too many of us want to copy Cardi B. Too many of us want to twerk like Megan Thee Stallion. Too many of us get caught up in bullshit. We watching Love and Hip Hop. We watching Housewives of Atlanta or whatever the hell they called. I don't know if the show is still on, but we watching that. We watching Married to Medicine. I don't know if that's the song that show is still. I don't watch this stuff, but we watching it. I don't even watch television. It ain't Netflix. It ain't nothing. It ain't nothing. If it ain't a documentary, it ain't nothing. Yes, Rose. I understand that Carl Maloney and Don Breyer are Democrats. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. But don't get it twisted. They are Democrats, but the Hispanic population sat down with Trump, who is a Republican. So what can we learn about that? They don't give a fuck who's a Republican or who's a Democrat. What the Hispanic population wants to see is who is going to help us prosper. And you see, that's the mindset that we need to have in our community. We get caught up on Democrat, Republican. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Carolyn's reports highlights them in a beautiful light. Highlights the Hispanic population in a beautiful light. Helps them out a great deal. Makes them look like great people. Don Bayer's reports points out all of our fucking inadequacies. Everything that's inefficient about us. Even when things look good, they're growing in education. However, they got less education than everybody in the goddamn world. They like to just point out and overshadow anything positive with negativity. They like to just point out the negativity. That's important to know that. It's important to know that. Even though Democrats wrote the report on Hispanic population, the Hispanic population is sitting down Republican. They don't give a fuck about any of that stuff. However they vote is how they vote, but what they wanted was something in writing. And they got it. And they got it. Right? So TSRC 9 is saying, according to a recent article I read, Blacks in the U.S. own less than 1% or 0.77% of the total wealth in the U.S. The Black population is 47 million. I believe it's 42 million, but it's too many of us to have 1%, is what you're saying. And I agree with you. Thank you for that membership, Reginald. Welcome to Social Influencer Training. You already know what that entails. So we're going to have a conversation. We're going to have to set up our little meeting so I can help you grow your platform. Thank you for that membership. Thank you for that membership, D.E. Roberts. Ados Patterson. What's up? What's up? Patterson, New Jersey. I work